All right, today we're going to talk about something that is, no joke, probably the single most important defense in all of cybersecurity. And the crazy part? It's so often overlooked. This isn't about some fancy, expensive new gadget. It's about getting the basics, the fundamentals, absolutely right. So let's just jump right in.
Okay, look at this number, 99%. Just let that sink in for a second. What if I told you that 99% of some of the most damaging, most common cyber attacks are totally preventable? Sounds kind of wild, right? But the data, well, it tells a really clear story.
And here's the proof. This comes straight from Gartner. They said that through 2023, 99% of firewall breaches are caused by misconfigurations, not flaws in the firewall itself. And get this, the same report says through 2025, 99% of cloud security failures will be the customer's fault. So the big takeaway here is that the tools aren't broken. It's how we're setting them up that's the real problem.
So if the problem is misconfiguration, the fix is, well, correct configuration. And that is exactly where the idea of a security baseline comes into play. It's the simple foundational fix for this massive 99% problem.
So what exactly is a security baseline? Think of it like a master recipe for your favorite dish, or, the blueprint for a house. It's this standard set of rules and settings for every single piece of tech in a company, laptops, servers, you name it. It's all about making sure that every new device is built securely and consistently, the exact same way every single time.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, a baseline includes simple but powerful rules. Things like all passwords have to be at least 14 characters long and use special characters. Or a really fundamental firewall setting, deny all traffic by default, and then you only open up what's absolutely necessary. It also means that every new employee gets a laptop that's built from a secure, pre-configured image, so all these settings are already baked in. That right there removes a huge chance for human error. Okay, so this is where things can start to feel a little overwhelming. If you've worked in tech or finance or healthcare, you have definitely seen this stuff. It's a total alphabet soup of compliance frameworks, and each one feels like its own giant, complicated rule book.
You've got different rules for different industries. Healthcare has HIPAA. Finance has to deal with SOX. Tech and SaaS companies are always chasing SOC 2. If you handle credit cards, it's PCI DSS. It can look like a huge disconnected mess, right?
And each one has a very specific job. HIPAA is all about keeping patient health data safe. PCI DSS, that's purely about securing credit card transactions. CMMC is a big one for any company that wants to do business with the U.S. Department of Defense. They're all trying to achieve good security, but they all kind of speak their own language.
And this right here shows a key difference in how they think. Let's take SOC 2 and ISO 27001. They're trying to do pretty much the same thing, like 96% similar, but their approach is totally different. SOC 2, which is really common in the US, is flexible. It gives you the goal and lets you figure out how to get there. But ISO 27001, the international standard, is prescriptive. It gives you a specific checklist and you have to follow it to the letter.
So with all these different rules, all these different philosophies, it can honestly feel impossible to keep up. But what if I told you there's a secret? A secret that all the auditors and compliance pros know. A way to cut right through all this noise and simplify the entire mess.
I mean, it's the obvious question, isn't it? With so many frameworks, each with hundreds of different security controls, how can any company possibly keep up with more than one of these without going completely crazy?
The answer is surprisingly simple. It's this, NIST 800-53. This is the master key. This is the Rosetta Stone for cybersecurity compliance.
So what is it? NIST 853 is this massive catalog of over 1,000 security best practices. And here's the secret sauce. Almost every other framework you've heard of, SOC 2, HIPAA, even ISO, is basically just a slice of these controls, maybe reorganized a bit. In fact, a lot of auditors, they use this as their own internal master checklist. So if you can align your security program with NIST 853, you're already covering the huge majority of what every other framework is going to ask for. It's the ultimate cheat sheet.
Okay, so we get what a baseline is, and we definitely get why it's so important. But how do you actually, build one? Let's walk through a practical blueprint.
You absolutely do not have to start from scratch here. Please don't reinvent the wheel. The best way to do this is to start with a proven, respected standard.
For most companies out there, that's going to be the CIS benchmarks. They're super detailed guides for pretty much any tech you can think of. Now, if you're working with the US government, you'll be using something called STIGs, that's Security Technical Implementation Guides. They do a similar thing, but they're built specifically for Department of Defense network. And this picture shows a really important idea. You don't have to boil the ocean. You don't do it all at once. Frameworks like CMMC are built on maturity levels. You get the foundation right, then you move to the next level. You should think about your baseline in the exact same way. Build it in stages. It's a journey, not a sprint.
So the actual process, it's pretty straightforward, really. 3 steps. First, start with a standard like the CIS benchmarks. They even break it down for you into implementation groups. IG1 is your starting point. It's all about essential cyber hygiene. Step 2, automate, automate, automate. Build those secure golden images for your laptops and servers. Use tools like Ansible to push out your settings consistently. This is how you do security at scale without losing your mind. And finally, step 3, you have to continuously audit and monitor everything to make sure nothing strays from that secure baseline you've worked so hard to build.
And one last, really crucial reminder. Just because you're using standards and automation doesn't mean you can be reckless. Any change you make to your baseline has to go through a strict change management process. That means you open a ticket, you get it approved, you test it in a lab first, and you always have a plan to roll it back if something breaks.
And finally, let's be realistic here. This isn't a weekend project. Building a really solid security baseline is a journey. For a big company, this could take a year or 2, maybe even more. The goal isn't instant perfection. It's all about steady, consistent progress.
And that brings us right back to where we started, that 99%. It's just like knowing that most burglars get in because someone forgot to lock the door. A security baseline is just the process of making sure all of your digital doors and windows are locked tight, by default, every single time. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Is your organization's digital foundation built correctly? Or are you leaving the doors unlocked?